As a software developer, there are many meta skills that you can work on every single day to become just a little bit better. And no, these are not skills like go learn C++ or Git. These are meta skills. Investing in these meta skills every single day will pay off substantially in the future. The first meta skill we're going to talk about today is your research process. Of course, programmers by nature are researchers. You are doing research to really solve a problem that you're presented. And of course, you're going to establish your hypotheses and really your understanding of the problem space. And of course, you're going to try to implement a solution with code. There's really no solid research process. Everyone does it a little bit differently. Some people might be a bit more organized and some people might be more unorganized. The organized type people might have like a central location of storing all their research about the problem. Unorganized people might not even have that. But really, when it comes down to your research process, I think being more organized is actually better. And the reason being is that it's more shareable or at least more accessible to other people. For example, clearly articulating your problem is probably the first step of your research process. Next, you might have to gather a lot of background information about that problem area. Of course, you're going to have to search for a lot of different information from many different websites just to understand the problem. But I think if you think about your research process as a system of inputs and outputs, you'll be better off. These inputs can be the problem that you're aware of, the information that you now know, and maybe even previous solutions that other people have had. And of course, your outputs are really just your proposed solution. But of course, we can do a whole video on being organized with a research process, but let's move on to the next meta skill. Alright, let's talk about search engines. A programmer is really only as good as their ability to search. There are good ways to search, and there's also bad ways to search. Going to Google, for example, and just typing in what your problem is, really bad way to search. Search engines are actually really powerful tools if used right. And they can serve you in ways that people actually think that you're some type of computer genius just because you're finding things that nobody ever really finds. So like taking the time to really understand just advanced search and the various search syntaxes will serve you really well. Are you looking for something on a specific website? There's a search syntax for that. Are you looking for something that you saw a couple of years ago, but you can't find it? There's a search term for that. Are you looking for a specific file or the contents of that file? There's a search term for that. There are plenty of courses online that will teach you how to Google like a pro, and it's really worth its weight in gold. Alright, we're going to jump into the next one, which is GitHub search. Very closely related to searching, but let's talk about GitHub in specific. GitHub, of course, is one of the biggest code search engines in the world. They also have their own concept of advanced searching. If you want to find the most popular code of something you're searching, there's ways to find that. Do you want to find a recent example of something that you're trying to implement right now? There's probably a search syntax for that. You want to see an example using a framework you're thinking about? There's a search term for that. Or maybe you're trying to find an issue that you vaguely remember that's in somebody's repository somewhere. There's a search term for that. GitHub search really becomes your best friend when you realize that you can use unique terms that other search engines really don't support. But enough about search, let's talk about getting more hands-on. The fourth meta skill that I think is really important is the idea of touch typing. Learning how to properly type is going to reduce the overall amount of keystrokes that we have, at least in our lifetimes. Learning how to properly type can make a significant impact on your daily work. Not only can you achieve speeds you once thought were not even obtainable, but it's also good for your wrist health and being more ergonomic. So while you might be able to type somewhere between 50 and 80 words per minute, you can go a lot faster. And it all really takes only 10 minutes a day of just working on that skill. Imagine if you took that 50 words per minute and you doubled it to 100. You have just doubled your productivity. And of course, over a lifetime or even a career, this really adds up. All right, the next one is related to being on a keyboard, but it's really just keyboard shortcuts. There are many different keyboard shortcuts that you can use on your operating system today. Of course, everybody knows the staple keyboard shortcuts, the Control S, the Control C, the Control V. These help you, but think about how much more productive you can be by knowing the other keyboard shortcuts. What about being able to resize your windows on your monitor at any time you want? What about bringing focus to the last task you actually used? What about being more productive in your code editor? And of course, there's a keyboard shortcut for everything, and if there isn't one for something, you can customize them. The common ones you're going to want to know are the ones for your operating system, for your favorite IDE or text editor, and for all the developer tools that you might install on your machine. Getting into the habit of learning these keyboard shortcuts can really pay off in the long run, just by taking about 10 minutes to understand them. This next one is taking our touch typing and keyboard shortcuts to the next level by using Vim or Emacs. There are editors specifically designed for all the things we're talking about right now. These are built for power users to really just customize as they see fit. The focus of these tools are to avoid using the mouse and purely focus on the keyboard. Think about any way that you need to manipulate text or navigate through it, you can do that on a keyboard. The one gotcha with these are that the editors have really steep learning curves. But with enough time invested each day, you can get the basics down to be more productive and really bring it into your programming workflow. This next meta skill, you probably don't think is a skill, but it really is, and that is asking questions. Being able to ask a good question separates you from a lot of other people. One thing that you might notice is that if you go to Stack Overflow or Quora, you're going to notice that only the good questions have the best answers. If you see bad questions, on the other hand, you're going to see them downvoted or even removed completely. And you can work on asking questions by thinking about these different things. Like, imagine if you were being asked the question. Does it make sense? Imagine you only have 5 minutes to ask somebody the question. What's the question look like now? What's the answer that you want? What about the title of the question? What is the general theme of what you're trying to understand? What about including less information so that it's easier to comprehend and provide a straightforward answer? What is the context? Communicate what your environment is or what you're really trying to do. What have you actually tried? A lot of people don't even provide this. And really show where you're stuck. You might be halfway through or even 90% there. How far are you into it? And although you're going to get better at asking questions over time, this is a skill that you can work on today. All right, the next one is problem solving. There is a difference between problems and solutions. If you ask me, I'd say this. A problem is a known unknown. It's something that needs clarity. It's our assumption that really needs clarity. A solution is a known known. It's the facts that we have from gaining clarity. So being able to articulate a problem will help you get clarity. A problem that is well articulated is a problem that's half solved. But being able to communicate both a problem and solution is how we gain ultimate clarity. There's a lot of things that we can do to improve our problem-solving ability. There's a lot of brain games, coding challenges, and even logic puzzles that we can solve. Like, one of my favorite things to do as a kid were to buy those books of logic puzzles or cryptograms and really just try to solve them. But now there's many apps like Elevate, Luminosity, or even Brilliant. And the last but not least, the meta skill that I think is probably the most important and the takeaway from this video is reading. Your ability to read and comprehend information quickly is really what your job is as a programmer. You're going to be reading a lot of code, you're going to need to be understanding a lot of code, and you're going to be putting it all together to build some type of context. But you're also going to be reading a lot of other things like documentation, emails, and even specifications that you're going to need to understand to build a solution to the problem. And of course, the more that you read, the better you become at reading. This can really accelerate or hinder your overall productivity. If you really want to go as far as learning speed reading techniques, you can do that if you want. But I really think that if you just read for 30 minutes every single day, you're going to build a skill where most other people don't even have. And of course, as you become a better reader, you can also comprehend a lot more. So we've gone over 9 different meta skills that I think you can work on every single day to become a better software engineer. Leave a comment on this video of some of the meta skills that you do every single day. And don't forget, spend about 10 to 30 minutes every single day on your meta skills to become a better developer.